One has to become faithful by practicing the controlling process of the yoga system and must elevate himself to the platform of unalloyed devotional service by chanting and hearing about me. So, this section of Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, these chapters where Lord Kapila he is speaking, he is propounding the philosophy which is popularly known as we know it is known as Sankhya philosophy. So, on request of Mother Devahuti, Lord Kapila he explains the path of devotional service, which is titled as, this philosophy is titled as Sankhya philosophy. And this verse, particularly this verse, in a capsule, in just one verse, it gives the entire process that is described by Lord Kapila, and he will be describing further also that what is Sankhya philosophy as enunciated by him. One has to become faithful by practicing the controlling process of the yoga system. To start with Ashtanga Yoga, first step of Ashtanga Yoga is Yama, and must elevate himself to the platform of unalloyed devotional service. So, start with Yama and gradually elevate himself to the topmost platform of devotional service, which is called as Samadhi. So, starts with the first step of Ashtanga Yoga, that is called Dhyana Yoga, and it concludes or culminates in Bhakti Yoga. And this philosophy is called as Sankhya philosophy. Now, exactly same process is given in Bhagavad Gita. This verse describes the entire chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that is chapter number 6, which Prabhupada titles as Sankhya Yoga. Sometimes devotees wonder why it is not titled as Dhyan Yoga. In Hindi book it is titled as Dhyan Yoga, but in English Prabhupada has given the title of that chapter as Sankhya Yoga. Because Prabhupada explains the philosophy as enunciated by Lord Kapila in Teachings of Lord Chaitanya book, introduction, Prabhupada says, the philosophy enunciated by Lord Kapila, which is known as Sankhya philosophy, is the same as given by Lord Krishna in the 6th chapter. And again in 6th chapter we see, one has to become faithful by practicing the controlling process of the yoga system. Right? So, first step is controlling process of yoga system. So, Lord Krishna explains 6th chapter Sankhya philosophy, Sankhya Yoga to Arjuna. First step, a person is said to have attained yoga when having renounced all material desires. This is the controlling process. Having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. This is Yama and Niyama. So, the instruction of Sankhya Yoga in 6th chapter starts with 3 things. Renounce all material desires, neither act for sense gratification nor engage in fruitive activities. And exactly this is what Lord Kapila says here. One has to become faithful by practicing the controlling process of yoga system and eventually elevate himself to the platform of unalloyed devotional service. And the 6th chapter concludes in devotional service. Yogi nam api sarvesham mad gate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam samya yukta tamomata. Of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith. Here Lord Kapila says, become faithful, and then do what? Elevate himself to the platform of unalloyed devotional service. And of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service. This is what Lord Kapila says, unalloyed devotional service. Is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. So, this verse in particular summarizes or condenses in one capsule, one nutshell, the entire 6th chapter. Now, this verse to be implemented in practice is explained in 6th chapter from verse number 4 to 47. How this Sankhya Yoga has to be practiced as explained by Lord Kapila. Further elaboration again Lord Kapila gives in this 3rd canto. So that is how the title of the 6th chapter is Sankhya Yoga as given by Prabhupada in our Parampara system. Now there are many points in this purport that Prabhupada has highlighted from the verse. Here Prabhupada says, the word cha is significant. Bhakti yoga is direct and other process is indirect. But even if the indirect process is taken, there is no success unless one comes fully to the direct process of hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. So, Bhakti yoga is direct process of attaining the Supreme Lord. And other yogas are indirect processes, all other yogas. But nevertheless, all other yogas ultimately lead to Bhakti yoga. So, in 5th chapter, Arjuna is asking Lord Krishna that I am bewildered by your equivocal instructions. So, please tell me conclusively, definitely, which one is more beneficial for me. Arjuna said, O Krishna, first of all, you ask me to renounce work, and then again you recommend work with devotion. Now, will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial? So, what is Lord's answer? The blessed Lord said, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than the renunciation of works. Only the ignorant speak of karma yoga and devotional service as being different from the analytical study of the material world Sankhya. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the results of both. So one is direct process, one is indirect process. But nevertheless, here Lord says, one who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the result of both. Same thing applies to Bhakti Yoga and Dhyan Yoga also. Generally, those who practice Dhyan Yoga, if we study Gita carefully, we understand all the yogas, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, ultimately lead to Bhakti Yoga. But the practitioners, they leave the process halfway through. When they acquire their desired result, what they aspire for, and they stop the process without going further, then it is named as Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, etc. But when they follow the process till the end, the ultimate goal, then it always culminates in Bhakti Yoga. That is how we are saying. Lord Kapila is saying you start with Yama Adi Bhir, and culminate in devotional service, unalloyed devotional service. So the goal of Dhyan Yoga is also unalloyed devotional service. So in the 6th chapter, Lord explains the process of withdrawal of mind from material world, Yama Niyama. Asana is not elaborately explained, just lay kushagrass. It should be not very high, not very low. And Then pratyahar, withdrawal of mind and senses from material objects. Till here Lord explains in 6th chapter, first part. Then Lord says, one should hold one's body, neck and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. So, the Sankhya philosophy as explained in Bhagavad Gita, Sankhya Yoga as explained in Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna, entails that there are two important things. First is, meditate upon me alone. Right? So, people have devised different objects of meditation. Somebody is meditating on light, somebody is meditating on some pyramid, candle, anything of their choice. Void, totally blank. Somebody has an egg with small light glowing inside, they meditate on that. So different people have invented or devised different objects of meditation. But Lord says one has to meditate upon me. So Dhyan yogis meditate upon the Lord within the heart. But when the Lord appears and when they realize the Paramatma, the next step is, what is the desired result they want? What is the phala, fruit of their meditation they want? So Dhyan yogis, they aspire either for some siddhis, mystical powers, that we want mystical powers, and then they want to go to higher planets, they want to travel between interplanetary travel, disappear, appear at their will, take any form, prapti, mahima, laghima, so many siddhis are there, ishita, vashita. So they want all these siddhis. That is one goal. Another goal is when the Paramatma appears after their yoga, after they realize Paramatma gives darshan, they aspire for liberation from this material world. So they are sent to Brahma Jyoti. But here Lord Krishna says, meditate upon me alone and make me the ultimate goal of life. So when the Lord appears after the yogi has finished his meditation, Lord gives darshan. What a yogi should be asking for? A yogi should be asking for Lord's shelter, not material opulences or mystic powers or liberation, but he should be asking for the devotional service to the Lord. That is the perfection of yoga. So Lord Krishna is explaining that how this Dhyan yoga attains perfection. What is the perfection of Dhyan yoga? The yogi who knows that I and the super soul within all creatures are one worships me. Means the yogi who knows super soul Paramatma and the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, the Supreme Absolute Truth, Bhagavan, Krishna are the same. Then what will he do next? Worships me and remains always in me in all circumstances. So, the ultimate goal of Dhyan yoga is to start from withdrawal of senses, engaging mind on the Supreme Lord, making Lord the supreme goal, ultimate goal of life, and then knowing that this Paramatma within my heart is the Supreme Absolute Truth, and my connection with the Supreme Absolute Truth is rendering devotional service unto Him. And this is how then further Lord concludes the chapter. Highest yogi is he who does not stop at siddhis or liberation, but he engages in my unalloyed devotional service. And exactly this is what Lord Kapila is explaining in the third canto of Bhagavatam. Then another important point that Prabhupada points out here is that indirect process also leads to the same goal as devotional service leads. So Dhyan yoga leads to devotional service. But the process of Dhyan yoga is very tedious, very, very tedious. First, one has to control his senses. One has to withdraw his mind. And then Lord sets a parameter. What is the parameter set by Lord? We are seeing now. A person is said to have attained to yoga when having renounced all material desires. First, he has to give up all material desires. He neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. So, he will not act for any sense gratificatory activity nor he will engage in fruitive activities. Then further, Lord says, for one who has conquered the mind, super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. Mind has to be tranquil. How mind has to be tranquil? Now some checklist is given. Some checks are given. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. So one who practices this yoga, first he has to withdraw himself from all material activities, fruitive activities. No material desire should be there. Then heat or cold, honor or dishonor, happiness or distress, he has to be totally equipoised. You should consider them all the same. Then further advanced yogi, he sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones or gold, as the same, and is satisfied by the virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. So where is the satisfaction of such a yogi? If he is not enjoying material opulences or material pleasures, then what satisfies him? So now Lord says, his acquired knowledge and realization satisfies him. He is satisfied with the transcendental knowledge he has acquired. He is satisfied with his constitutional position that he has realized. And for him, pebbles, stones or gold are all the same. Then further Lord says, further advanced yogi, a person is said to be still further advanced when he regards all, the honest well-wisher, friends and enemies, the envious, the pious, the sinner, and those who are indifferent and impartial with an equal mind. So this is how first one has to train the mind to withdraw from material activities. After withdrawing from material activities, then Lord says you are eligible to go to the forest and attach mind to the Supreme Lord. So there is a withdrawal from material world and then attaching mind, detachment from material world and attaching mind to the Supreme Lord. When Arjuna heard of this process, he says, it is impractical for me. I can control the wind, but I cannot control the mind. Right? Chanchalam hi manha Krishna pramati balvadridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayu rivasa dushkaram. So this mind is so chanchal, so tedious, that so stubborn, that I can control wind by my prowess, but I cannot control this mind. So Lord acknowledges, yes, asamshayi mahabaho manah durnigraham chalam. But abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagena chigriyate. So finally, by withdrawing mind from matter, which takes years, sometimes many births, to come to this detachmental state, it may take sometimes many births also. And then to practice fixing mind on the Lord. It's a very lengthy process. Sometimes bahunam janmanam ante it takes. Withdrawal from matter and attachment to the Supreme Lord. But eventually one will attain the Supreme Lord and come to the conclusion of devotional service. So this is the indirect process, which Arjuna says very tedious, very difficult, impractical. The exact word is impractical used by Arjuna. But after such a long, lengthy process, difficult process, one reaches devotional service. But now here it is said, one must elevate himself to the platform of unalloyed devotional service by chanting and hearing about me. This does not require separate endeavor for detachment. When one hears and chants about the Lord, Prabhupada tells in the translation word to word meaning, stories about me, mat katha, stories about me. So when we do Harinam Sankirtan, when we do Krishna Katha, when we hear sincerely Krishna Katha, attentively we hear Krishna Katha, or Harinam Sankirtan, chanting, automatically this detachment comes. Automatically this detachment comes. So Dhyan Yoga process is first detach yourself from matter, then attach to Krishna. Bhakti Yoga process is attach yourself to Krishna, automatically detachment from matter will come. This is explained in 14th chapter, 3 modes of material nature. Arjuna is asking, what are the symptoms of a gunatit person, a person who has transcended the 3 modes? So there Lord explains the same things. One who is unaffected by happiness, distress, honor, dishonor. One who is unaffected by the externals, stone, gold, pebble. One who is unaffected by enemies and friends. He is called Gunatit. These are the lakshan or characteristics of a Gunatit person, transcendental person. So Arjuna asks how this state is achieved. So Lord says, Mam swa vibhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samtitetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. To attain the same state of detachment from matter, detachment from worldly things, one has to just engage in my unalloyed devotional service. Automatically he will attain Gunati state, which is detachment from all these worldly objects, which is automatically achieved. Right? So, to detach from material world, very easy it is through Bhakti Yoga. How is it easy? Just engage in sincere hearing and chanting, automatically detachment will come. What these Dhyan Yogis, Gyan Yogis endeavor rigorously, right? They slog, they toil for it, they struggle very hard to attain in many births is Janayati Asu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayat Ahetukam. So Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita. By Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga, by rendering devotional service to Vasudeva, by hearing and chanting, as Lord Kapila says here, one can easily, quickly, Janayati Asu. Asu means very quickly. Janayati means it produces. One need not endeavor, it automatically produces. Janayati means it produces, it results into. So Bhakti Yoga automatically results into this. So Bhakti Yoga is quick process, easy process, without any difficulties. Right? And Dhyan Yoga also ultimately leads to Bhakti Yoga, but it is a lengthy process, it's a difficult process. Now, how this devotional service has to be developed? There is another point Prabhupada highlights in the purport. Bhavena or bhava is very important factor. In the practice of yoga or in any spiritual process, bhava is explained in Bhagavad Gita 10.8, Buddha Bhava Samanvita. So in 10th chapter, that is Chaturshloki Gita, first verses 10.8, Buddha Bhava Samanvita. So, Prabhupada very nicely analyzes this and compares with Vedanta Sutra. One should be absorbed in the thought of love of Krishna. When one knows that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the source of everything and that everything emanates from Him, then one understands Vedanta, aphorism, Janmadi Yasyatha, and then he can become absorbed in Bhava. So, the analysis given by Prabhupada is, to come to the stage of Bhava, first one should know Krishna properly. Right? And what is that knowing? Everything emanates from Him. He is the source of everything and everything emanates from Him. When one knows this, he knows Vedanta, and when he knows Vedanta, he develops Bhava for Krishna. So, we unless Prabhupada points out this, we don't realize that, oh, this is the way to attain the stage of Bhava. That's why hearing about Krishna is so important. And that's how in the 9th verse Krishna says, my devotees engage in conversing about me and are delighted. Now very interestingly, this 10th chapter, Lord Krishna explained in 9th chapter the most confidential knowledge. And the most confidential knowledge was, again which is repeated in 18th chapter, is Man Manabhav Mad Bhakto Mad Yaji Mam Namaskuru. All engage your mind always in thinking of me. Offer obeisances and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So, this is the most confidential knowledge. And having said this, having explained this, Lord could have concluded the Bhagavad Gita because this is the ultimate goal and the whole process is also explained. But then on his own, without Arjuna's any inquiry, Arjuna has not asked any question, Lord on his own, by himself, started 10th chapter. Right? And he says, the Supreme Lord said, my dear friend, mighty armed Arjuna, listen again to my supreme word, which I shall impart to you for your benefit and which will give you great joy. Till 9th chapter, there was instruction. There was a discipline of bhakti, pure bhakti. There was a process of pure bhakti, glory of pure bhakti. Now Lord says, listen again to my supreme word. Now there is one added element to this. What is that added element? It will give you joy. So what is that joy and why Lord has spoken? Till now we had seen the pattern. Arjuna is asking a question and Lord is explaining. Arjuna is asking a question, Lord is explaining. And 9th chapter concludes also with the most confidential knowledge. But on his own, Lord is giving something, which Lord is also joyful about sharing. What is that knowledge? Now Lord says, I am the source of everything. Right? Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and the sages. So Lord says, I am the source of demigods and the sages. The next verse, Lord says, he who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme Lord of all worlds, he undiluted among men is freed from all sins. So he knows me as the source of this creation. Then Lord says, all the good qualities, bad qualities are emanating from me. I am the source of all the qualities. Then Lord says, I am the source of all the inhabitants of this universe. And he lists out 25, 4 Kumaras, 7 Saptarishis, 14 Manus. All these come from me and all other progeny is coming from them. So in this way, Lord is explaining, I am the source of everything. And then 10.8 he says, Aham sarvasya prabho matta sarvam pravardate. I am the source of everything. This is how Prabhupada says now. So Prabhupada is telling in the purport, when one knows that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the source of everything and that everything emanates from him, then one understands the Vedanta aphorism and he can become absorbed in bhava. Now very interestingly, in the purport of 7th verse, Prabhupada explains, these are some of the opulences of the Supreme Lord. When one is firmly convinced of them, he accepts Krishna with great faith and without any doubt. So by hearing about Krishna, how he is the origin of everything comes from Krishna. Right? Demigods, the creation, the great sages, the progeny, the qualities, all the interactions of this material world, everything comes from Krishna. Not only material world, source of both spiritual and material world. Now Prabhupada further says, he accepts Krishna with great faith and without any doubt, and he engages in devotional service. Next sentence is very important. All this particular knowledge is required in order to increase one's interest in the loving devotional service of the Lord. So Lord said, I will give you supreme word which will bring joy to you. So when one hears about Lord, he becomes joyful about Lord's opulence and here it is said, increase his interest in loving devotional service of the Lord. So by sincerely, attentively hearing about the Lord from authorized source, bona fide spiritual master, from the scriptures, one develops bhava for the Lord. And this is what Prabhupada explains in the Bhagavatam purport under our discussion. Right? Then he can become absorbed in bhava or the preliminary stage of love of Godhead. So this is how, now Lord is saying, unlike devotional service by chanting and hearing about me. This important is chanting and hearing, and it can take us to the stage of bhava. And that is how Lord Krishna himself says this, that I will again, Arjuna, listen again to my supreme word, which I shall impart to you for your benefit and which will give you great joy. So, till 9th chapter, most confidential knowledge about devotional service is explained. How to add the element of joy in this devotional service is explained by Lord in the 10th chapter. So, enhancing the the mellow of devotional service is the 10th chapter. That's why Lord says, this is my supreme word which I shall impart to you again. And this is what Lord Kapila is explaining and will explain in the further chapters of Bhagavatam. We'll stop here. Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Sri Prabhupada ki jai.